What's up guys, Manny the Mage here, back at you with another video. And this one's kinda different from my usual content, which tends to be gaming on this channel.
Have a nice trip! See you next fall!
But I discovered this subreddit called r/nosleep, and I decided I want to read some stories for you guys. So I'm going to be reading 2 scary stories for you guys from r/nosleep. I'm going to leave their link to the original stories in the description down below if you guys want to read them on your own. And I'm going to be leaving time codes in the description just in case you guys kind of want to hop around and hear my different narrations for these 2 different stories. So with that said, if you guys are new here, be sure to hit that like button and hit subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss any more scary stories to come. With that said guys, let's get right into it. Okay, the story I'm going to read for you guys is from a user called Colorblindness, and this one's called Dumpster Diving. Here we go. I saw my first drive-by shooting when I was just 6. This kid, a grade above me, Tommy Markle, used to walk me and my brothers home from school. Mama couldn't afford to drive us to the elementary, and the bus didn't go anywhere near our place, so Tommy would take us every day. We had to pass through some rough neighborhoods, and Mama always told us to listen to everything Tommy said to stay safe. The day it happened, my middle brother, Byron, was running ahead, going down an alley we normally avoided. Tommy was right at his heels, shouting and admonishing him, and then it all went to hell. A sound like a crack of lightning split through the air, colliding with Tommy and sending him flying backwards. I remember seeing blood splatter out from his left eye, hearing the sound his skull made as it hit the pavement, and then watching the car drive off, all because he had worn the wrong colors to school that day. Mama promised us she would find someone else to get us to school, but like so many other things, it became empty words. I don't blame her, not even now. Raising 3 kids in the Bronx was hard. Rent alone ate most of her check for her first job, and the little she made as a waitress covered our food and utilities. Sometimes we didn't even get one of those. We learned to survive though, the only way we knew how. Since our days were spent at home rather than in a classroom without adult supervision, Byron, Trey, and I were able to get into a lot of trouble. It's not that we were looking for it, but the apartment was stuffy, claustrophobic really. Staying there alone when Mama had to work felt like we were suffocating. I knew she wouldn't have approved of us sneaking out just to toss rocks at passing cars, but oftentimes the reason for our visits through the neighborhoods were another reason entirely: hunger. I can't really explain to you what it feels like to be so hungry that just a loaf of bread tossed aside can be appetizing. This is what my childhood memories amount to, scrounging through the trash and trying to find anything to help Mama. Most of the days we didn't even see her, not even when we came home to sleep. It made my responsibility as one of the oldest to try and make our visits to the streets few and far between. But it's hard to say no to a crying 7-year-old. I wasn't ashamed to search for food in the dumpster. I actually thought that was necessary for our survival. It was during one such afternoon that our lives changed forever. We had gone about 6 blocks from our house, picking up littered Coke cans that we planned to recycle for spare change, when Trey decided to run towards the dumpster and take a peek inside. It had become so ordinary for us to do that me and Byron didn't even scold him for doing so. A few seconds later, he was leaning over the edge of the dumpster. Our younger brother let out a surprised yelp that made Byron and I come running. He stumbled off the cardboard box he had been standing on and started fumbling over his words. There's a man in here," he said with shaky words. The 2 of us gave him a skeptical glance and Byron went to investigate. "Jesus Christ, what happened to this dude?" he asked. Curiosity got the better of me and I stole a glance as well. The image of that man stuffed amid the garbage was something that I never erase. He was naked from the neck down, his head completely severed, his body covered in sores and cuts like his skin had started to decompose. From the middle of his chest it looked like someone had taken a butcher knife and cut him straight down, and then used sewing thread to sloppily put him back together again. "What is that?" Byron asked, pointing to where his junk was supposed to be. It looked like someone had stuffed his body full of small duffel bags, and when his body had defecated for the final time, they had caused his organs to rupture out. "Could it be drugs?" I suggested, realizing that the style of his killing resembled similar gang incidents we had seen in the neighborhood. "Cool," Byron said, climbing into the dumpster and fishing out the bags. I wanted to scold him and scream that he could get an infection or something far worse, but it all happened so quickly and he was back out before I could say a single word. Eagerly, my brother ripped open the bag and all of us found our jaw dropping as we saw stacks of $100 bills stowed inside. "What the fuck?" Trey said, trying to contain his excitement. "We need to get him out of here. He could be loaded," Byron said. Suddenly, this was starting to feel like a very bad idea. I looked around the alleyway cautiously, wondering if maybe whoever had done this to this headless stranger was still lurking about. "Hurry up," I told him, not bothering to even express my concerns. Byron cautiously lifted up the lifeless corpse, like it was some kind of rag doll. Trey grabbed his legs, doing his best not to puke as the fresh maggots ate away at the man's thighs and legs. I helped get him over the edge of the dumpster, letting out a grunt as the dead weight hit me. We stumbled into the street below. The body tumbled over the side of the grimy metal and flopped to the ground, and sprawled out with more bodily fluid spilling out as it smacked against the concrete. "This is fucking disgusting," Trey said, holding his hand over his mouth. "Quit your whining. Quaid, did you bring the pocket knife?" Brian asked me. I fumbled with it, passing it to my middle brother as he climbed on top of the body and started to cut away at the flimsy threads that held this corpse together. Almost immediately, the body split apart, pushing out more wads of cash and jewels that had replaced his vital organs. "Holy fuck," Byron said, as his fingers sunk into the treasure trove excitedly. "Trey, get your backpack, come on, before anyone sees us," he told me. I grabbed mine too, and all three of us hastily snatched up as much loot as we could. "I can't carry anymore," Trey whined as he struggled to zip up the pack. "There's got to be a few more pounds in here," Byron said as he looked around the alleyway and started to drag the body behind the dumpster. "We'll come back for the rest," he decided. I didn't think this was a good idea, but I didn't argue with him. We ran home as quickly as we could without looking suspicious. It was probably strange seeing us carry those backpacks full of cash and jewels, especially because they weighed us down, but we did our best to look normal. Inside our damp apartment, Byron was the first to show Mama. "Look, we found enough to get us back into school," he exclaimed. As the treasure spilled out in front of our parent, I saw her face a mix of emotions: surprise, shock, fear, maybe a few more. Baby, this is amazing. Where did you get this?" she asked. We didn't bother telling her, and Byron made up a lie about doing a bunch of jobs for the neighbors. Mama was in too much shock to ask further. She was trying her best not to cry. We all agreed we would go back to the dumpster later that evening when Mama went to work again. Once the coast was clear, I led the way. I was thinking about anything else except those jewels. We found the dumpster easily though, but the body was nowhere in sight. "Shit, someone found him," Trey said. "Maybe they stuffed him back in the dumpster?" Byron suggested, as he struggled to flip the lid open. From the streets behind us, we heard a familiar sound, a trash truck, and I told him to hurry up. Byron was sticking his head into the dark trash bin, muttering that he couldn't see anything, when suddenly he lost his footing and the boxes he was standing on fell away. The lid slammed on his neck and caught him hanging against the dumpster as my brother screamed and Trey and I ran to try to help him. The trash truck started to make a familiar noise. The long metallic arms of the vehicle extended to take hold of the edges of the dumpster. It was so dark and the driver couldn't see that Byron was trapped. Suddenly, the truck was lifting my brother and the bin in the air over top of the visor, causing Byron to fall into the wide container in the back. Trey ran to the side and tried to shout at the driver as the loud noises of the gears and metal started to whine, and I ran back to see if I could catch a sight of Byron. I watched in mortified horror as he struggled to push himself out of the trash. I watched in mortified horror as he tried to push himself out of the trash. The container started the routine process of smashing the bags into compact sizes to give enough room for more debris. Before I could even scream, my brother was caught in the compactor, his own voice echoing across the entire city as he fell back and was smashed by the powerful loader. I heard his bones crack and shatter as his scream was covered over by the sound of the dump truck shutting down. Trey had managed to get the driver's attention, but it was too little too late. "Holy fucking Christ," the driver said as he saw what happened to Byron. "What the fuck is wrong with you kids? Why were you out here in the first place?" His own hands trembling as he realized how horrendous the accident he just caused was. "I'm calling the police," he muttered. Trey and I panicked. We ran away, even as the driver whipped out his phone. I don't think we stopped until we made it back to the apartment. We finally got a chance to catch our breath. Both of us were too tired to mourn our brother. And then as we approached the steps to our flat and saw a door ajar and broken, our hearts dropped even more. The nightmare wasn't over. Inside, we saw a trail of blood that told a story. A vicious assault that crossed every part of our small home. Then we found Mama in the bedroom, slumped against the wall, her pants pulled down and her chest exposed. She was beaten to a pulp, riddled with cut marks that reminded us of the corpse we had found, and had deep wounds that made her bleed out all over her mangled body. Around her were a few of the jewels that had been scattered during the scuffle. The rest was missing. Trey fell to his knees and screamed and sobbed as he hugged her. I stood there, paralyzed and broken. The rest of the evening was a blur. Exhausted and numb, we both curled up next to our mama and wished that it was all a bad dream. When morning came, so did the cops. Somehow, the dumpster diver had managed to extract what was left of Byron and use that to find our address from his backpack. I never saw my brother again after that morning. Both of us taken into foster care without a bat of the eye. I was adopted by a middle-class family and somehow managed to learn what it was like to live a normal life. I walk my own son to school now, down the same rough streets, and try to hold my head up high and say I made it out of that life. I'll think about Trey and Byron and wonder what would have happened had we never found that body. Then I see children my son's age, wearing clothes that smell and scrounging for food amid garbage, and I know the answer. I give them warm food and help them to shelter, but secretly, I hope the same nightmare I lived through hits them one day to get them out too. Because as horrible and as frightening as those memories are, no matter how often they keep me awake at night, they all pale in comparison to the desperation these children are filled with every single day. Wow, so that was definitely an emotional one. Thanks again to Reddit user Colorblindness for letting me read that. This next one's a little shorter. It's called Little Hannah, posted by user 1872 Anon 18. Little Hannah was born on the 11th of October at sunrise. She was a blessing. She was a twin. Little Johan was her brother and had been born 30 minutes after her. Both had ginger hair and gray eyes. They were attached to the hip. Hannah always seemed to be in charge, her little hands on her hips while she spoke to her younger brother. He was always eager to do whatever she demanded from him. Johan was quiet and sweet. He was nervous, and his bright gray eyes always seemed to be lit with fear and pain. We knew bossy little Hannah was the cause. Hannah was her father's child. She went hunting with him, fishing with him. Johan stayed with me, and we would bake cookies. Little Hannah's dark eyes always seemed to be filled with questions, and a darkness that filled you with cold fear. That isn't normal, is it? Being afraid of a child? Hannah always sensed the fear, and I knew she was proud. When Johan fell from their treehouse at a young age of 9, I knew it was no accident, and I told my husband. He screamed at me, wanting to know what I was implying. I wasn't implying anything. Neither my husband or Hannah cried at the funeral. The same night of the funeral, my husband said to me he wasn't glad Johan was gone, but it wasn't too bad, as he knew Johan kept Hannah weak. I cried for months for little Johan. My husband tried to shake sense into me. "Wake up, Johanna. You have a wonderful little girl downstairs who needs you." It was true. Little Hannah did need me. Little Hannah seemed to flourish without Johann there. She went fishing and hunting with my husband, and they would come home and bake cookies with me. Little Hannah allowed me to put her long hair into intricate, delicate hairstyles. She was so beautiful. She socialized with all the other children and never found it hard to find friends who were willing to do whatever she wanted. Little Hannah always got what she wanted. She had everyone wrapped around her little finger. Little Hannah joined the cheerleading team. She got straight A's and went to gymnastics. She played piano and spoke 3 languages. She was the favorite student and everyone loved her. It didn't come as a shock when she met Matthew. Matthew, with his dark and blue eyes, they started to date almost immediately. Little Hannah started medical school and Matthew started to study to become a lawyer. They were a perfect couple, and little Hannah made my husband so proud. Would Johann have become a doctor? No, I don't think so. Even at a young age, he knew he wanted to be a mechanic, like his daddy. Little Hannah moved out and got a place with Matthew. They had a little baby, Johann. After brother Johann, Hannah had grinned, and Matthew glanced over to gauge my reaction. Her cold eyes never changed, and I knew this was to get a reaction. She never liked Johann. He held her back. Hannah's baby had dark black hair, but he had these bright gray eyes, my Johann's eyes. Little Hannah always got what she wanted, no matter the consequences. It was discovered a week later, Matthew had been cheating on little Hannah. I think that catches us up, doesn't it, Matthew? I can see the questions in your eyes, Matthew. Did she hurt Johann? You're questioning everything you knew about Hannah. Isn't that cute? Oh, you think little Hannah hurt her brother? Of course not. It hurt me so much to push Johann out of the treehouse. It hurt me so much to see the confusion and betrayal in his eyes. Even at his young age, he knew what was happening. Don't you see? He was holding little Hannah back. He was so scared and pathetic. I had to do everything in my power to let little Hannah reach her full potential, including getting rid of Johann. I'm aware Hannah is incapable of caring for anyone other than herself. But don't you see, Matthew? She's my little Hannah, and you hurt her. Don't worry, Matthew. When they find you, they'll think it was an accident. Your family will mourn, but with Hannah's help and her son, they will eventually move on. But they'll always question who exactly you were if you found it so easy to hurt my little Hannah. I'm doing you a favor, Matthew. Little Hannah wanted to do so much worse. I could see it in her dark eyes. I am sorry. And with that concludes our last story. That one was a very good one. Very chilling one. Thanks again to Reddit user 1872anon18 for letting me read that story. That was little Hannah, guys. So with that comes the end of our stories. If you liked it, guys, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. I normally do gaming content, but I'm feeling like trying something new. So if you guys like this, be sure to comment down below and let me know. Thanks, guys.